Hello BookTube, and hello AuthorTube. I thought it might be a little too late to do a NaNoWriMo post-mortem for 2021, but then I saw a bunch of other people doing NaNoWriMo post-mortems on this first weekend after National Novel Writing Month, when we're all tasked with writing a 50,000 word first draft of a work of fiction in only 1 month. I participate in NaNoWriMo every year. I also have started regularly participating in the NaNoWriMo spin-off event, Camp NaNoWriMo. I just find the sense of community wonderful. The sense of all these people doing one of the most solitary things you can do, but doing it all together. And I also love NaNoWriMo's philosophy. Write without editing. Editing is a separate thing from writing. Don't do them at the same time. And I like that. I've been preaching that philosophy long before there was a NaNoWriMo to all sorts of people. So it's nice to see it gain such traction with so many people. And I, despite all that lovers and kisses, my NaNoWriMo, I did succeed. I did win. I did reach 50,000 words. And I more or less finished the story that I wanted to tell. But I don't consider this year a win for NaNoWriMo, because I more or less finished the story I wanted to tell at 35,000 words, not 50,000 words. I, for the first time ever, drastically underplotted the story that I wanted to tell for the month of November. I myself, the goal, of course, is 50,000 words. So that breaks down to 1,667 words a day. And I'm a fast writer, so what I tended to do for the last few years is just bump that up to an even 1,700. So that I'm not worrying about, increments here and there. So I do 1,700 words per day. And aside from my introductory chapter, I tried to make it even simpler by making every single chapter of the work 1,700 words. That way, everything is, the simplicity is just built right in. And my story was about a young man in India who is working at a restaurant. He has a crappy motorbike. He has a crappy tablet. His mother is fairly wealthy, and they have a nice home. And he knows that if he asked her, she would go online and get him a new device, a new tablet, something that with all the bells and whistles, something that is expensive. He knows that. She's not the villain of the piece at all. I tried scrupulously to have the story not have a villain. But he doesn't want that. He values, he's 17, so he values his independence. And he values it more and more, and in the irrational ways that 17-year-olds tend to value their independence. So he saves up money, not much money, because he's come up with a plan, which is to go online to Amazon or wherever, to the online marketplace, and find a knockoff low-rent tablet that he believes he can root, that he believes he can strip of its cheesy operating system and upgrade. He believes that he's watched enough tutorial videos on YouTube to allow him to do that. And he sees that as a backdoor, a way to get a much better tablet than the one he currently has without spending a huge amount of money. So he does that. He orders the device, and the story starts with it arriving at his house. And he decides to carefully follow the rules, carefully follow the tutorial procedures, and root the thing. Strip it of its bloatware and make it into basically a new device. And in the process of rooting it, he allows something to enter it, something to change about it. Maybe not something to enter it, since that sounds netherworldly, but something fundamentally changes about the device. And my idea for my story was, how long would it take him to know that something was fundamentally changed about his device if the thing that was fundamentally changed about his device didn't want him to know? How long would it take him, and by extension the reader, to figure out that something weird was going on? And how would you do that? I mentioned before, when I was talking about this project for NaNoWriMo, the thing that I wanted to sort of strengthen, the muscle that I wanted to strengthen here, was my ability to shade in every extra nuance of suspicion, to build to that realization, to build a case for that realization. And that was the story that I had in mind. I wasn't thinking at all about telling the follow-up stories, which is what happens then. I was thinking more along the lines of that story. And rather stubbornly, as I was writing, it didn't take me long. I was probably a week into NaNoWriMo this year when I realized that I had more time than plot. And that I was going to flesh out every nuance of the story that I wanted to tell long before I reached 50,000 words. And stubbornly, even when I started to realize that, I still only wanted to tell that story. I did not want to tell the story about that boy's tablet taking over the world, or whatever it was going to do. Which left me in the odd position of fighting with my own project for most of November. And now that it's over, I did tell that story. I left the door open. The title of the story and the premise of the story leaves the door open for another story, which I don't think I will ever tell. And now that it's over, I look back on it as I did reach my word count, but I consider it a failure. Or at least a very bad, sort of awkward learning experience. And I've been talking with some writer friends of mine. For sins in a past life, I happen to know a number of novelists. And they gave me all sorts of input on why my misadventure happened. The most common input was that I did not plot my story. I don't ever write out a plot for my story. One friend said, if you'd plotted out your story, especially day by day, since you know exactly how many words you're writing per day, you would have known going in that you didn't have enough story to cover the ground. You should do that next time. Let that be a lesson to you, my grasshopper. I wanted to say to this person, in fact, I may have lost control and said to this person, hasn't Random House been waiting on your book for 3 years while you doom scroll on Instagram? Are you really, you might be right, but are you really in a position to take that kind of tone? I may have said that. And that raises a question about what I'm going to do at Camp NaNoWriMo or any other NaNoWriMo event so that this doesn't happen again, because I don't want to plot my stories. I know a lot of people swear by it. A lot of people do Preptober in October. They spend the whole of the month plotting their story, what you're going to write every day, what's going to happen every day. I know a lot of people swear by that, and I know a lot of people get a lot of satisfaction out of it so that they don't wander, so that they get... The goal of NaNoWriMo, no matter how you reach it, is to reach that incredible sense of inner fulfillment when you finish, when you write the end on something, having worked on it so hard for so short a time. That is the goal of NaNoWriMo, and how you get to it. And I know a lot of people swear by outlines because it allows them to get that feeling, but to me, it seems like it would leach all the pleasure out of the writing experience. It would especially leach out the question marks, right? I'm not a pantser. I don't fly by the seat of my pants for NaNoWriMo, but I still like there to be an active element of invention, maybe even the unknown, in every NaNoWriMo project that I do. I don't want every last jot and tittle to be scripted out ahead of time. And it seems to me that if I spent October prepping that way, that's what would happen. But that's hypothetical fear. Now I have a legitimate material lesson of what happens if the plotting in my head and the writing I do day by day don't align. Now I know what that feels like. I mean, that's never happened before with NaNoWriMo. Plenty of times in NaNoWriMos, in my history with NaNoWriMo, I have realized that I don't have enough time to write, that my story is bigger than the time and word count that I have allotted. But this is the first time that it was smaller. And now I know what that feels like, and it's pretty unsatisfying. I enjoyed a large aspects of my NaNoWriMo project, but only the part that I wanted to tell, the gradual realization that something was wrong with that tablet, and how you would know, and how you would even respond. How long would it take you, once you realized that maybe your tablet or something in your tablet was sending text messages to your friends that you didn't write? How long would it take you before you maybe asked the tablet what was going on? Would you even do that, or would you bring it in for service? Of course, this boy is not going to bring his tablet in he doesn't live anywhere near where he could bring it in for service. Instead, I imagine that he would immediately go back to the source of the problem. He would immediately go back to YouTube and look for questions like that. And he'd do it on his tablet at first. Would the tablet let him see those videos, or would it manipulate them? That was the story that I wanted to tell, the slow, incremental realization of that story. And that was really fun to do. That was very enjoyable, but I'm still counting this NaNoWriMo as a fail because there was a long tundra of stuff after that I didn't particularly want to write. And the weird part is, the part that I'll wrap up here, I don't want to go on forever and ever with a post-mortem. The weird part is that I already know what I want my next writing project to be, whether I do it on my own or whether I do it for NaNoWriMo or some other writing project. I already know what I want it to be. I know the bare bones of the story that I want to write, something very non-Steve. Whereas someone getting a cheap tablet online and fiddling around with it is kind of on brand for Steve. I want to pick something that's very non-Steve and just learn all about how to do that. But now, in addition to wondering, can I do that? Can I make it convincing even though it's not Steve? I'm now wondering, well, how will I know that it's enough? The non-plotting avenue that I'm thinking of, the only one that's coming to mind, is to overload the story at the beginning. So that although I'm not plotting what I'm going to write every day, there's still way too much story for me to get done in 50,000 words. So that I know that I won't run out of story before I run out of time and space. I don't know, though. Those of you who do this, do you have any advice? This is the first time this has ever happened to me. So that is the only way I can think of other than simply plotting out what I'm going to write every day, which I don't want to do. We shall see, though. I thought I'd give you, since I gave you a bunch of updates about NaNoWriMo, I thought I would give you this last one where I tell you how it went. And it was enjoyable, but I'm considering it a failure. It was pretty frustrating. And I've been thinking about it quite a bit since then, so I thought I'd share it with you. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube and AuthorTube.